So the new moon in Capricorn arrives very, very soon, only in a few days here. And I'm going to break it down. We're going to talk about Capricorn season, what it may be signifying. I think it's a nice pocket of astrology, lovely pocket, one of the better pockets we've had in a little while. And of course, Jupiter's coming into Aries in hours from when I record this. So this is also kind of a Jupiter and Aries celebration moment. Let's begin, and I will start sharing my screen here. The first thing I want to look at is just this chart. Here it is, the new moon in Capricorn. What I love about it, just from a basic traditional astrological perspective, basic delineation, you have Capricorn makes no aspect to Aquarius. So Saturn does not see this syzygy. There's an aversion from the malefic planet Saturn. Now it's in the sign of Capricorn, so we're not escaping Saturn's powers here, heavily influenced by Saturn this moment. But it's a little bit harsher sometimes when you have the planet mixing by aspect with any other planet, particularly a hard aspect. And we escape that hard aspect from Saturn in this new moon moment. And then we have Mars, exactly the same. Both these air signs are reversed to Capricorn. Mars makes no aspect whatsoever. This Mars retrograde in Gemini, which is winding down, doesn't impinge on this moment. You know, we've gone through such a challenged periods of astrology. We had eclipse season. Both of those eclipses were ruled by Mars and Gemini, vis-a-vis the rulership tree. And so then we had the Sagittarius season, where we had that Sagittarius stellium opposing Mars in Gemini. It was all about Mars and Gemini and this Mars retrograde dominating the story. Blocks, delays, information releases, old news being revisited, Twitter drama, social media purges, all of those things went down. And so maybe now we're kind of on the other side of that a little bit. The exact opposition of Sun Mars is over, and we get this syzygy, this new moon in Capricorn, averse to Mars retrograde, averse to Saturn in Aquarius. It's almost a little bit of a safety container from a lot of those dramas from earlier in 2022, and which is why I love this so much. And then we also get the other major story here is both benefic planets, Jupiter and Venus, are in that cardinal axis, blending with this new moon. And so I think this is a new moon that we can saturate in and really consider what is going to be new for you. What do you want to have as the newness of your life? And, you know, even though we're deep into a Mercury retrograde cycle, it's not stationed retrograde yet. It will be soon. It's deep into Capricorn. So that's on our radar. Mars is still retrograde. It's not quite the time to accelerate out with action, initiative action, but it is a time where I think our planning can really come through for us for these next few weeks. And this new moon might refresh you. It might give you some freshness and some ideas. You might have some breakthroughs here, I think, with a new moon like this, so well configured. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep moving. I'm going to talk about the book Horoscope Symbols in this talk. Again, I return to this repeatedly. I love this book. Robert Hand's my favorite astrologer, probably. He is a astrologer from the modern contemporary tradition, the humanist school that emerges with him in the later half of the 20th century in the wake of the writings of Dane Rudhyar. And then Robert Hand becomes an ancient astrologer and a translator of ancient texts and a real proponent of some of the powerful ancient techniques. And so Robert Hand he's a very amazing man and astrologer. I'm fortunate to be able to see him and hear his talks live. But I think I went to both the talks at UAC, or maybe just one, UAC 2018. But anyhow, what does he say about Capricorn? I'm bringing this back in. I quoted this in my Capricorn season talk, but I just want to bring it back in. The key concept: Capricorn may allow the external world to define its criteria about what is and is not real, important, acceptable. But having once accepted these definitions and even glorified in accepting them, it turns with gusto to play the game according to the rules. And so it's accepting the rules, the containers of our lives, and then saying, yes, I will play by this. And then we accelerate into that with action. And so it's a very productive sign. It's an earth sign. It's about digging into what's real, what's tangible, what's around us, the materials we have, and making do with those materials. Very resourceful sign. I want to turn to Porphyry the philosopher, ancient astrologer. This is the Holden translation. And he's an ancient Greek astrologer. Let me see here. I just I'm going to make this big here. Porphyry says about Saturn that Saturn rules chronic complaints, moist and chilling, and also old and stored up things, foundations and lands, old things and elder persons, and sterile and childish persons and sailors. But I'm focused here on the foundations, lands, old things, stored up things. As one of the opportunities for this new moon, you may want to revisit, especially with the Mercury retrograde incoming, older things in your life, things from deep in your past, things from your family, the tradition of your life, the traditions that have formed your life. This is what Saturn, as ruler of Capricorn, can very much imply. You may be digging into your home life. In winter, we're all kind of ensconced in our homes, getting to know our homes, using our kitchens, using those blankets that we have to pull out because it's cold. If you're down under, maybe you're exploring, opening the windows and using parts of your home to adapt to the weather down there. So that's part of this moment. And then I want to look at Mars. What does Porphyry say about Mars as the exaltation ruler of Capricorn? He says that it's the planet of action, dangers, courage, anger, daring, violence, perilous affairs. He goes on and on. But I want to focus, and he says, this is what I love, and of all those things that happen with quickness and panic, that's what Mars is. It's the kind of quick, passionate acting, sometimes can be seen as panicky, especially in Gemini, which is this panicky sign. But this is the beauty of Capricorn. You get the Mars, the panicky, the kind of action and passion and courage of Mars, but it's tethered to that foundation of Saturn. That's what we just looked at before. And so it can very much mitigate. The actions of Capricorn are very much tethered and grounded, and Mars does very well there. It's a night sign. It's cooler. And so it's not as panicky, actually. And it's more courageous, where you've kind of seen the action, you have the foundations, you've acknowledged those restrictions, and you can move ahead. And so to have a new moon there, a verse from Mars and Saturn, but then supported by those benefic planets, I just think it's a lovely, lovely new moon. You're going to have reception with the triplicity Lord, no matter if it's happening at day or night in your location. So, okay, let me just keep moving on. Here's the chart again, and you can see Venus and the moon are the trigon lords of earth signs, and they're both mixing here, right here with the new moon. Mercury is visible. Venus is visible. There's these beautiful evening star planets that are mixing. It's the thinking and the beauty, and then bringing that into our foundation and our home life and the ancestors and the family and all of those things. So it's a beautiful moment, beautiful, beautiful new moon. And especially given the context of so many different difficult syzygies on repeat over and over again. Mars and Saturn ruled, squaring Saturn with those eclipses and fixed signs, opposing or conjoined Mars with the syzygies in Sagittarius, Gemini. We finally get some freedom and a little bit of rest, I think. So enjoy this. Enjoy it, particularly until that Mercury retrograde station, which we'll look at later. Here's something I had written on Twitter. I found this great quote from a Twitter account I love, Winter Oak Press. They're a wonderful account. Capricorn Season Wisdom, and they had a quote from Konstantin von Monaco. There is an undeniable glory in the thought that an indelible temporal bond links us, not only with our ancestors and our descendants, but above all with the whole rest of the organic world. And that's Saturn, right? It's the masses of people linked together on this earth, and we're at this interconnected depth of reality that we're in. This is why Capricorn and Cancer are so potent. They are the angular signs in the Thema Mundi, and they're very much about the nature of reality itself. And I think the earth sign on that axis, Capricorn, tells us about this grand interconnected part of nature and the cycles of nature and the death and the birth and all of those things that the organic world brings. And that's a big, big part of this moment, in my view. Okay, I want to bring in a little bit of news. I'm bringing more news articles in with these syzygy videos. I think that they're a good time to just check in with the news. And, markets are seeing recession, but not the Fed. The Fed has just raised interest rates for 50 basis points instead of 75. But the markets are seeing recession. Those are the people that do the betting, that aren't the Fed. They're betting on that the Fed will have to stop raising rates and start lowering rates faster than the Fed's own projections. And so there's a sense of recession looming. Here's another article, Business Insider. This is a story by Sam Tabariti. he wrote this, but with a recession looming, layoffs are in full effect. Here are some of the safest and most at-risk jobs, according to economists. And I bring up recession because that's a signification of Saturn, restriction, having less. And while we have this time where the sun is at its weakest and it's about to be reborn here on the ingress of the sun into Capricorn, while we have a new moon that's good for starting things or initiating vision, and while we've got retrogrades that are delaying action, I think it's a great time to think about recession planning. How will you survive with less? I think it's a great exercise to just budget down to your minimum and just do that for a week. Just live off just the smallest amount you can. And then you can do it. Cook every meal, rice, beans, whatever you like, get the rotisserie chickens, the cheapest meals. Practice that. Might be a good way to plan in case these worst case scenarios unfold in the new year or in this Q1 period. Okay, here's that Mercury retrograde, those dates. It's 29 December. So it's, about a little over a week out from this new moon. We have that station direct of Mercury. Look for this waxing lunar cycle to initiate things you have to do, things you can't wait until late January. This waxing cycle before Mercury stations retrograde is kind of the best time to do it. And, I'm going to come back with a chart here at the end that I think is a good one to do that with. But here's some other news stories I'm thinking about that are just themed around Capricorn during this Capricorn season and this Capricorn new moon. Putin's energy crisis in Europe has pushed global coal use to an historic high. But here's why it won't stay that way for long. So there's this energy question that's still front and center. And there's some optimistic stuff that the global energy crisis has turbocharged renewable growth. A lot of people, including the International Energy Agency, is talking about unprecedented momentum behind renewables. And so it's kind of this silver lining that might be emerging. Here we can see it in the question of energy, but also in your own life. What has the turbulence of this fall kind of required you to touch in with, and maybe something's emerged that's very valuable for you, maybe an older bit of wisdom or something that's stable in a foundation. That's something earthy. That's how I can see this new moon moment, is these jewels within the turbulence that may be emerging during this long Mars retrograde. All right, here's this one moon I'll point out. So this waxing cycle. Okay, sorry, this is this is the moon with Mars. This is not the easiest moon here, the moon with Mars. We're just including this chart, I guess, to make everybody aware that we still have a Gemini moon with Mars coming up. It's, we're not totally out of the woods yet. And this is the only moon that'll be with Mars while Mercury is also retrograde. So the domicile ruler of the moon is retrograde. The moon is conjoining the malefic planet Mars while it's retrograde. You might want to be careful here right after the new year with some of that peak retrograde vibes. Don't be signing contracts with this. You might want to just kind of chill and just relax here. That whole Gemini moon transit right after the new year hits. Let me see what else I got. Is this it? I think this is, I've done, you know what I'm going to do here on the fly because that is the beauty of having the talk on Zoom like this and going live, is I can just animate, and I'm going to show you some of the best waxing and moon cycles from where we are now, instead of an image that I pre-prepared. So look at this. Avoid the moon in Aquarius. This moon in Pisces, I would avoid square Mars. But you get an Aries moon. You get an Aries moon right here with Jupiter re-entered Aries. I think I picked this chart out of my Capricorn season video, but this is the one I would consider. This waxing moon, try to get it right here with with Jupiter in Aries. And you can see here, now you've got this benefic activated moon in the cardinal axis applying very closely to Jupiter. I think that's a lovely option. 29 December, Thursday, it's noon here where I am in Central Europe, but you can modify that. And, even if the moon's carrying Jupiter's light, you don't get it exactly applying. You still have that moon flowing into the sun as the next aspect, carrying Jupiter's light. That's better than, nothing, better than a lot of the alternatives. So that's going to be my pick for you. If you want to try to, if you had to do something now, Mars is retrograde, I still would be a little hesitant there. You got that retrograde Mars, but maybe wait until after Mercury stations direct in January to do. But this is if you have to. If you have to, you may want to consider that. Okay. Alternatively, and actually, let me come back here. Right after the new moon, you can get the moon young in Capricorn applying to Venus. This might be a better one, because you get the moon young in Capricorn applying to Venus, just peeking out, very young moon, and the domicile ruler Saturn is quite strong. It's moving faster, powerful in Aquarius. I think this is the one I would try to go for Christmas Eve morning. If you really have to launch something, I think this is better than that Aries moon, because the domicile lord of the moon has a lot more strength in this chart. Okay, I'm gonna, that's the end here. I hope you have a great little period here after this, new moon moment in Capricorn. Hope you get as excited about it as I am, because of the softness and the kind of earthy nature with Venus and Jupiter and cardinal signs. And just have a wonderful week. I'll make I think a Mercury retrograde video next. I'm going to break some of that down in some more detail with some stuff from my library. We'll just talk about Mercury retrograde, but have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you real soon. Okay, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.